All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. I'm Leanna Castello. I lead customer success here at Density, and I'm joined by Rob Grazioli, our head of product.
Hey, guys.
So we're excited to talk to you today about safe display. Rob's going to kick us off with a little bit about Density.
Yes, cool. Thank you, Leanna. So density is probably best described as a network of sensors. You can install these above any door, and in this particular image, they're sort of up on the top here above those doors. Together, you can deliver super accurate and reliable count for any space across your portfolio, at your grocery store. So all these sensors work together to essentially produce people count in a super accurate way. The way we do that, Leanna, if you want to head to the next slide, is quite complicated. I think perhaps most importantly, we do this in a way that protects the privacy of the people in the space. That's kind of a core tenet of density. So we do this all in real time. We do this on the device. So what you're looking at is what our devices see. It's essentially depth data displayed as like a 2D video, and our algorithm in real time detects whether or not that particular object moving through a scene is a human, and then we just pass up ones and negative ones depending on the direction up to our cloud. We process that data and we deliver count in dashboards. Leanna, if you want to go to the next slide. So we can deliver that through a mobile application, a real-time dashboard, as well as SMS and push notifications for a variety of use cases. So that's density in a nutshell. We're all here because this happened. I think everyone's pretty aware that there's a pretty unprecedented ongoing situation in our country and in the world. Density had a front row seat to a lot of that. So what you're looking at here is a graph of activity across different sectors that density is installed in. And you can see that, towards the end of March, we just saw this mass exodus out of space. And we weren't quite sure how to react, but we knew that at some point people were going to come back. So we took our time, and yeah, Leanna, if you want to move on. We knew that going back was going to increase demand. We kind of saw that, but we wanted to make sure that people had the resources they need to ensure it was a safe return to the office. So we launched a new sort of layer over top of our core platform that we call Safe. And what you'll notice is that a lot of players in the industry, they'll trying to solve similar problems, I think, qualify as surveillance. And we felt like employers could bring their employees back to work safely without invading privacy. And again, like, that's just something that's super important to density, and we feel like we do better than anybody else. Kind of a funny tidbit for one of our customers is that handshakes are dead. So again, it's like it's a totally new world that people are participating in, and it's going to be a completely different office space. And density is really just trying to do whatever it can help. So I'm going to hand it off to Leanna to talk about our solution specifically. While this is ongoing, please take time to think about questions you have. And there's a little QA button down at the bottom of your Zoom interface. If you click that, you can ask questions all throughout. And then at the end, Leanna and I will address them. Last time we did this, Leanna forgot to actually answer a lot of the QA questions. We had Megan answering them in real time in chat, but we'll make sure we do that this time if this is the second time you're joining us.
Yes, a little bit of user error. I've reformed. I have a growth mindset, and I'm going to do better this time.
Yeah, we had a retro. We're better now.
But anyway, thanks for joining us, and we're excited to walk you through some of the updates we've made to our platform to help our customers reopen their places of business in a safe way. So we categorize these updates into three buckets. First is display. So how do you get information out in front of your customers, your employees, so that they can make informed decisions for themselves about how they're spending their time? Alerts, so that you can know when certain spaces are getting crowded, there's a rush of people through a certain entrance, so that you can deploy your staff to make sure that you're helping keep your workplace safe, clean, sanitary, all of that. And then finally, analytics. And what analytics enables you to do is monitor how your policies are being adhered to and complied with by tracking data over time. And so I'm going to walk through some customer examples of these, of how our customers are using these pieces of functionality. And then Rob's going to walk through a demo live to show you how it works in a demo instance. So first is display. So at Density, we believe people are smart and can make informed decisions for themselves, and empowered with the data that they can make healthy, good decisions. So we invested and have had great adoption with this display feature. And funny enough, bathrooms have been a really hot topic. So display is really a really valuable tool where you can create a super compelling, easy to understand visual of whether a space that someone's about to enter is crowded, nearing or at capacity, or whether it's relatively empty or safe to enter. And so we've seen customers deploy this across, like I said, bathrooms have been popular because you don't know how bathrooms are supposed to be private. You don't know how busy it is before you walk in, and you might be walking into a crowded situation that would make someone uncomfortable. We also have seen this deployed for cafeterias, break rooms, other amenity spaces, as well as choke points like lobbies. So you can imagine in a lot of buildings, waiting for the elevator can cause people to queue, or congregate, especially in the case of a post-COVID world where they're also supposed to self-distance on the elevator themselves. So having that visual of, hey, I'm about to go into a building and the lobby's pretty busy, maybe I want to wait outside, has been another use case that customers have found really valuable.
And Leanna, just to press on like the bathroom thing and why that's valuable. You'll typically see customers installing these in places where either you can't necessarily see what's inside. So in order to maintain that distance, you have a layer of transparency that's external, but of course, you're not having a glass window in front of your bathroom. We've always thought about Density as potential for having telepathy in a way, or a way to essentially see into places where you are not. And that's just one way we're sort of thinking about display and the way people are using display.
Yeah, and Rob's going to walk through an example of other configurations of display in the demo, but also some of the configurations of display, you can show a list of spaces. So potentially as an employee, before I even go to work, I can know if the building's busy already. Before I decide, if I have flexible office space and I can decide where I'm sitting during the day, before I even go to a floor, I can know how busy that floor is and optimize where I'm even going in the first place. So there's a lot of really powerful data that you can give. It's a lot of really powerful data that you can give to people to make good decisions about how they're spending their time and where they're spending their time. The next suite of features that we have are alerts. And so alerts are a great way to make sure that, if certain capacity thresholds are about to be met, like say your cafeteria is starting to reach the maximum utilization of how many people you'd like in it, you can send alerts to the facility staff, security in certain cases, to let them know, hey, you might want to go and help with crowd control so that employees know that this space is getting full and we need to start managing ins and outs so that our employees, our customers can have safe social distance from one another. Right now, we have text-based alerts available today in the platform. We're actively working on email-based alerts so that you can send it to corporate distribution lists or integrate with service technologies. Like I know some of our customers are looking to integrate with ServiceNow for ticketing. Optimizing deep cleans. So something else that's a reality of how companies are budgeting in a way they didn't expect was that they're spending a lot of money on cleaning. But we also know that companies have finite time, finite cleaning resources, and that as you're bringing back only a portion of your employees, spaces probably aren't consistently used throughout the building. And there may be, particularly busy restrooms, particularly busy break rooms that you want to have more attention focused on in terms of cleaning, so that your employees stay safe and that your employees also feel safe and know that you're taking care of the spaces as there's more traffic. And with Density, you can do that. So This is an example of, some of a customer account where there's, two different spaces. One is a little bit busier of a cafeteria and one is a less busy break room. Your facilities team, operations staff can identify when are you having these spikes of entrances of people, when are you having higher peak occupancy, and then send in the staff to go, clean up, wipe down surfaces after those peak periods so that the next round of people are encountering a safer and clean environment. And lastly, around monitoring policy effectiveness, a lot of our customers are doing a phased in approach in terms of return to work. So thinking about, first, we're going to bring back or allow about 5% of employees to come back to the office, then 10%, then 20%, legging into a strategy like that. But you don't necessarily know when those people are coming back to the office, whether they're actually coming back to the office, how often they're coming back to the office. So having density helps you understand when and how those migrations are coming back, and then helps you plan for that next phase of how can you continue to bring employees back. If you say that 30% can come back to the office, but only half of the people actually do, density will be able to tell you so that you can open it up to other employees. And so what we're looking at here is an example of a customer who, prior to COVID, was really optimizing for heavy use of their space. They were frequently at about 100% capacity. As COVID started picking up, as shelter-in-place orders went into effect, this customer is actually an essential business, so they did have to keep some minimal number of people on staff at their sites. But it went from near 100% on a regular basis to down to more like 10 to 15% capacity in their spaces for the duration of most of the shelter-in-place. Then, as reopening started to happen in their particular region, they started to have a phased approach in bringing employees back to the office. And we're really pleased that density was able to show them that there was really good compliance with their phased in approach to work. So they started at, bringing about 20% of people back, and then in later May went all the way up to 40%. And we're happy to see that they were pretty much right on target as they've been, setting those targets.
Something cool to add. Oh, sorry, Leanna.
Nope, I was going to turn it over to you anyway, Rob. You're good to go.
Well, I was just going to add how Density has actually been able to use this ourselves for our factory. So we run at a handful of people at a time, and we were able to set up alerts and also use our analytics tool to ensure that our factory employees were in fact safe, and our factory manager could kind of be outside of the factory and feel comfortable knowing that his team was safe. And obviously we kept production up, so we were able to keep our lines open while keeping people safe. It's pretty cool. Cool. All right, are you handing it over to me, Leanna?
Yep, and I'm gonna stop sharing.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Yeah, can you see my screen here?
Yep.
Great. So I'm just gonna go through really those three core features and just talk about Density's dashboard in general a little bit. So this is our spaces view, is kind of the home view. You just get a simple hierarchical list of spaces. This is our demo account, and we always keep data running through here. But you can see that data come in real time, as well as just have some simple charts and data like right off the cuff here. But what I want to show you is how easily you can create alerts. So for any space, you can create as many alerts as you like. It's just a simple click in the top right here. There's already an alert for this space, so it's displayed here. But creating alert is only occupancy based. In the very near future, we'll also have event-based alerts, so alerting based on entrances and rate of entry, people per square foot. So really, I think extending this feature quite nicely. But you can put in any phone number here. So this is an SMS-based alert. If you use your phone, you can set push notifications as well. So what I'm doing here is just saying, send me a notification when the capacity or the occupancy exceeds any number of people. In this case, 600. Well, let's just say 100. And what's cool is we have different escalation protocols. So you can imagine, like, as people go in and out of a really busy space, the count fluctuates quite a bit. So you could say, hey, just notify me every 30 minutes. So it'll check again 30 minutes later, or just notify me once, and it'll just send the alert and then actually just remove the alert. If you pick an interval, you can send an escalation alert as well. So this tends to happen for, again, like highly trafficked areas where you might have an initial threshold, and maybe on a normal day you can wait 30 minutes and check back in to see if that's resolved, but sometimes you have exceptions to that rule. So if it, like, let's say it goes up to 150 or 200 and you want an alert again because it's crisis mode, like who knows what's going on, people are just piling into your space, you can actually override this interval and just receive another alert. So you can save that, it's all saved, and you're all set. You can create as many of those as possible across any space. Lots of cool alert features coming out over the next few weeks that we'll make sure to update people on. So the other option here is displays. So for the same organization, like let's say we want to create a display for the women's restroom. Super easy to add a display. You choose the space that it's relevant to. So women's restroom in this case. What's really cool is we give you a preview of that space in real time. So this is exactly what that particular display will look like at this point. Even as people go in, you'll be able to see the status change and so on. So really, really cool feature there. This functions off of what we call a safe capacity, or you can set it to run off of any other one of our capacity or threshold metrics that we allow you to set on a space. You can also toggle what metrics you show. So here we're showing the occupancy, the percentage occupancy. You can change that to show the actual count instead. So as that count increases, it'll show how many people are actually in the space. For bathrooms and stuff, we'd like to really not show anything. It's just kind of weird to expose how many people are in there. The reality is, you have bathrooms are pretty low in occupancy. In particular, we have a wait time metric that we don't like to show for bathrooms. This is helpful for grocery stores or large cafes and so on. So what's really cool is you can actually add a sidebar, and then you can choose what you want in that sidebar. So one option is a custom message. For density, we like to just say like, hey, we're making, oh God, I'm so bad at typing. Hey, we're making sure this space is safe. And again, all that will just update in real time. And this is exactly how it will show up in your display. You can also add additional, you can add a space list to the sidebar as well. So let's say this was a lobby. I know this is a bathroom, but another common use case for us is a lobby. So you can show the first floor, you can show the second floor, and so on. And again, all in real time, you'll be able to see what the status of for each floor or space elsewhere in a particular building. So again, you can imagine sort of a user's journey as they get to the office. So, they're again being given information that allows them to make smart decisions throughout the day. So you can save that. It's created. We have a couple here. This is the one I just created. You'll get a link. This link can then be pasted into any URL, or some third-party display applications just allow you to paste in the URL, and it will render. And so this is a long-lived authenticated URL, so it's not something that you'll need to refresh at any time. What's also cool is you can actually push a refresh to the device. So if anything goes wrong, you can actually refresh that display, and that'll refresh in real time as well. So some really powerful features here. Again, we're seeing some really great adoption across all of our customer base, and super excited to release this.
And quickly to add on to what Rob was just showing, one, to make sure everyone here is clear, this is all configurable, and you as the customer can configure this from your platform. So you have a lot of flexibility to change things, add things as it makes sense for your business. And you can do it without having to reach out to support or the customer success team. Obviously, the support and customer success team are always here to help. Another question came in about, can you add, I think I saw a question about, can you add a logo to this view?
Yep.
And you can, and it's actually something that our customers can add directly. So that's feature just launched, I think, this week. And it's a really nice way for you to add some of your custom branding to this safe display.
Yes, exactly. So just in your displays list, there's a little button here, and you upload it like anything else you'd upload. Cool.
Rob, there's another question about, can you change the colors?
No, so you can't customize the colors at the moment. So one thing that we went through as part of this design initiative was ensuring that our displays were ADA compliant, and really trying to drive home that like stop go mentality. We do have the ability to actually convert these displays to black and white. That particular feature is in the works, so not released yet. But no color customization at the moment. Frankly, I'd urge you to be very careful about color use in general. But yeah, please, if you end up using display and that's something that you're interested in, obviously always open to feedback and making adjustments. Always keeping the user in mind, though, of course. Cool. Anything else on displays, Leanna, before I jump to analytics?
I think we covered the display questions.
Sweet. Cool. So last but certainly not least, we have analytics, which is kind of our, I'd say like one of our core feature sets, or really one of our most interactive feature sets in the platform. So it's just a super extensible way to view density data over time. You can create a number of reports. We even deliver some recommended reports. So when you first log in, if you set up spaces with certain functions, we'll actually automatically generate reports for you. You can click those and open them right up. In this case, I've created a report. I'm just going to look at a day here just to go through a certain number of features, and also show you how people are using utilization to again manage that return to work process. So really quickly, you can sort of select any space from your particular portfolio, and all those spaces are just added to this list. Super easy. You can pick any date range here. I just really picked yesterday, and again, this is a demo account, so this is fake data, but it's modeled off of real world scenarios. I can also filter the time of day. So obviously, 12 a.m. for an office space isn't all that relevant. So I can just kind of, in 15-minute increments, go to times that are relevant for me, and even filter out days of the week. So here we have like sort of a long arching day. What you're seeing here in this blue line is the occupancy of the building, and then these are the floors within the building. So again, returning to work is mostly about maintaining relative occupancy for a space. And typically that's on like the floor by floor level. So these are our floors. You can see the floor peak around lunchtime. That's because that's where the cafe is in this particular model. So if I change this to utilization, it sort of levels the playing field and allows me to look at each space relative to its capacity. So this is where people are starting to set different limits and ensuring that each floor's capacities are representative of their safety policies. So you can see this 100% line is really what people are trying to look at, and this floor in this case is getting very close to 100%. So that's a scenario in which, hey, maybe that's a particular floor that you need to enforce certain policies on, and monitor that over time. There are several other metrics that we offer. There's available capacity, which is really helpful for calculating real estate savings. So this is super helpful for underutilized space. If you were to remove that space, how much would you save on a monthly basis? Just simple calculations there. And of course, we also have entrance and exit data, which is sort of the underlying data set that drives all these other metrics. And then at any time, you can export this data to a CSV. You can export the chart as time series data, or you can export this summary data. So yeah, and another thing people do is typically integrate our data into their platform via our API. And they'll spin up all sorts of custom reports that pull in other data sets and so on. So super extensible, super interactive. Any questions on the analytics side, Leanna, or anything I didn't cover?
Maybe some analytics related ones. One, are there metrics or alerts for social distancing?
Totally. So we do have a separate piece of functionality called dashboards. And we have a series of reports that are sort of designed specifically for, COVID or really just space between people. So we have a square foot per person metric that we deliver in a report. So in this case, we've sort of ranked each particular space by its square feet per person. So that's like per person, how much space do we have allocated for that person? This is a really common metric that people use for space planning. So typically they'll have some kind of average. So, in North America, people typically try to allocate 150 to 175 per person. You can see that kind of change per industry as you have open offices versus some older industries where you still have like formal offices. It goes up.
And obviously for a lot of our, sorry to cut you off, but obviously for a lot of our customers, 150 to 175 was probably more the standard pre-COVID. Now post-COVID, a lot of customers, there's a question about what's a safe occupancy rate or density in an office setting. A lot of our customers are setting that on a space by space level because it just depends on the configuration of the space, how people are likely to use the space, what level of occupancy will allow for safe social distancing. And then also a common thing we've heard from customers is effectively taking their former square foot per person rate and doubling it or tripling it in this period while they're looking to bring people back to work.
Exactly. And I know I'm flying through a lot of this stuff, so please reach out afterwards if you have more questions. And we do have demos available upon request. So please do that. But plenty of great tools again to help bring people back safely, and also through data. I mean, imagine a world in which this data didn't exist. This kind of stuff would genuinely just be done anecdotally or through bed checks, which is what really people were doing before we showed up a couple of years ago. So pretty cool. Cool. Should we head over to QA? Head into QA
there
now.
There are
Leanna?
a lot of questions.
All right, sweet.
Which is great. I hope you're ready for them, Rob.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing. If that's cool.
Sounds good.
All right.
So first question, how easy is it to perform a POC with density without a large upfront capital expense? So this is, you can buy one sensor at a time. You can buy a handful of sensors at a time if you just want to pilot, say, for one restroom or one break room for your particular space to get used to how the device is set up, how you're actually going to use the data in your environment. So there's not a minimum order right now, and you can structure a POC of any size that's right for you if you'd like to pilot before doing a much larger deployment.
And to add to that, for installing our device, we have several mounting options that make that portion of the process pretty straightforward. And it's powered via PoE, but we actually ship an injector, so you can just plug it into a wall and put it on Wi-Fi and just test it pretty easily in a matter of minutes. So not a ton of upfront lift. Again, different companies have different policies in terms of what they're allowed to install, and we have customers who are willing to push the limits and some who aren't, but we're pretty supportive in that respect.
Yeah. One that actually came from chat, what's the typical pickup area size for each sensor, and does it have a height limit to be accurate? So I can take this one. So the sensors are meant to go over a threshold, so it's important that you're creating those choke point. You're identifying those choke points that tend to be doorways, but sometimes are a hallway or just other open entryways into a space. The way the threshold works is it effectively sends down light and then reads back how far away the light is that's bouncing back from the objects beneath it. And so our sensors right now, the highest they can be installed is 10 feet, and the lowest they can be installed is 7.5 feet. And that where exactly you'll install it in that range varies based on how wide the entryway is that you're trying to cover. If you have an especially wide entryway, we can actually use multiple devices, and we have a way on the back end to chain them together to cover a wider point of entry. So if you have more questions about your particular space, your particular configuration, we're happy to walk through that with you and put together a scope of what an install might look like.
And Leanna, I think there's a sort of similar question in how do we handle people coming in at the same time? And there's actually a slide that one of the earlier slides I think communicates that really well. People coming in at the same time isn't really an issue for us in terms of accuracy. Accuracy tends to mostly be impacted by environmental factors. If we can detect a person correctly, usually it's fine if there are many more of them. High traffic areas are kind of our specialty. Because our algorithm's done on device and everything's done in real time, and we're able to deliver that data, basically through our entire infrastructure end to end, in less than a second, depending on your internet connection. We love being installed in these types of environments. So, this is like a I imagine this is like a tier type environment in this particular example. Mm-hmm. So we're super strong on that front.
Yeah, and this is meant to this video, like little video, is meant to illustrate that, as multiple people are walking in and out of the space, on the right hand side, you're seeing how our algorithm will identify each of those people uniquely. If someone's walking under an umbrella, for example, we're not able to detect that that's a human. That's an example of something that might trick our device. Okay. Rob, a question for you. I presume because you can't report on uniques, you can't report on average dwell.
That's a really good question. So that's a really good question. Yeah, we don't report on uniques. However, we can report on dwell time. We can do that through reconciling exits. So for every entrance that comes into a space, regardless of when that entrance occurred, if you pair that up with the most recent exit, and this gets confusing. I fail to explain this simply every time, but between when you reconcile first entrance with latest exit, you can essentially create the same average dwell time you would as if you were tracking somebody throughout an entire space. So we do deliver a dwell time metric. It's actually used a lot of times for super high traffic spaces. If there is any inaccuracy in our system, so like even if we're 99% accurate in super high traffic spaces, that means we'll miss someone every now and then, and we can actually use dwell time to improve our accuracy in that sense too, because we know that someone's not going to spend 4 hours in the bathroom, for example, or if that does happen, it's quite an outlier.
Yeah, and so to reiterate, we do have a average dwell time metric. And it's approximated based on first in, we assume first in, first out in terms of that calculation. Just to bring it together.
David's got jokes.
Do you have integration connectors with platforms like Domo?
So we do have purpose-built integrations, but for something like Domo, you can rely on our API. And that's something that we take a ton of pride in. So we do have a public-facing API documentation, and we really encourage people to leverage that to build their own solutions, their own dashboards, whatever they see fit. Domo specifically, we don't have a purpose-built integration, but that's something that we're open to building if there's demand there.
And a related question, Rob, is there an SDK to get alerts on apps previously developed by a customer?
I guess that kind of depends, but I think the answer is probably no. Like we don't have any kind of mobile SDKs, but we do have webhooks. So you can give us a URL that we send event updates to, and that's how a lot of our customers have implemented alerts externally. So you can set a trigger in your own application that just says, hey, when an event happens, or hey, when the counts do something, and webhooks are a great way to do that.
Thanks. Next question, how do you get density if you're only counting people entering a room?
So we count people entering and exiting spaces. So that's how we're delivering count, and that's a difference. That's sort of why density exists. Obviously, a lot of corporate clients have badge readers and stuff where people are badging to get into buildings. There's an issue with tailgating there, but the biggest thing is they're not really keeping track of people coming out of buildings. So yeah, we're tracking people going in and out, in and out, in and out, and every single time that happens, we calculate the count for the space.
And maybe another important point to bring back to is that's why it's important for a given space that you have a sensor set up on every point of ingress or egress, so that we're effectively taking the net of the number of people who have come in through one of the points of entry or points of exit, and the number of people who have left via those points of entry or exit to infer how many people are in the space.
Yes, exactly. I can't tell you how many times customers have said, "Oh, no one uses that door,"
They always
but
use that door.
they always use that door.
Next question, what's the turnaround time after ordering? And I can take that. So we can effectively ship overnight if it's really urgent. So it's just a matter of when you need, and we currently do have inventory in stock. So if you do want to move forward, please let us know, reach out to either fill out the contact sales form on our site, chat with us on our site, and we can get you set up really quickly. Next question, can you communicate with customers before they arrive at the site via an access, assume an AP or other method? So Rob, maybe you can talk about like the live view or mobile as.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I think I understand the question. Yeah. So that's exactly it. So we have a mobile application that you can distribute to your patrons or your employees if you like. You give them access to density system. You can scope their permissions to like one building, and then they can download the density application. And in the density application, they can set their own push notifications. So if they want to be alerted for when a space is quiet or space is busy, they can get those alerts. They can see the occupancy live in real time. And like I mentioned before, we also have webhooks. So if you want to integrate that into your own application that you want to deliver to your employees and patrons, you can do that as well. But then we do have some pre-built interfaces that don't require any sort of access at all, and that's what we demoed with Display. You can put that up anywhere. You can also send employees that URL. They can open that on their phone as well.
Yeah, and another version of the safe display that we have that might be appropriate for that sharing externally is what we call Density Live. And so you'll see this in a lot of ways looks very similar to safe display, but it's another way that you can, via a unique URL that you'd share with your employees or whomever, display the busyness of each of your spaces real time.
Yep.
Great. Next question, is the data collected from Density stored in the cloud? If so, can a local on-prem instance be set up?
Yes, it is stored in the cloud.
I can answer the second part of this.
Yeah, do you want to take the second one?
So we're a cloud-based solution today. So we don't support on-prem instances currently. Next, how do you think it will be helpful for educational institutes?
Great question. So we do have a number of academic customers. They're using it for, again, I think going back to school safely. That's totally a thing. The use cases are very similar to our like large corporate use cases. We see a lot of installations in cafes. They're then exposing that data to their students, so students can decide when they want to go to lunch. And then, of course, also giving the cafeteria staff that data set as well. They can adjust their menus and so on based on popularity and attendance. And then we're seeing a lot of installations in libraries and other work areas. Again, I think it's hard for me to remember college anymore, but what I do remember is that I used to spend a lot of time looking for study rooms and looking for spaces in the library. And I think that's just a continual pain point that these schools want to solve for their students. So it's exposing occupancy to their students so that students can make decisions. That's kind of an underlying use case that we try to support in a number of different ways.
Yeah. How do you account for large open plan spaces where density may be different in different areas?
How do we account for large open plan spaces where density may be different in different areas?
I can
maybe just that first part. Oh, sure. Go ahead.
So effectively, we don't. We trust that we're able to tell you how many people are in a space. If you tell us how many square feet are in that space, you can approximate the square foot per person and see what those metrics are in our various analytics platforms and other dashboarding. But we don't like send an alert when people are within 6 feet of each other. We assume that people are generally intelligent and they know about how far 6 feet away is from someone else, and that they will self-regulate they will see how busy somewhere is, and it will generally prevent congregating.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's something that we're sort of interested in learning about more over time as people come back. Like how pervasive is that problem going to be? I don't think that's something that people really know. And then on the backside of that, like you've been to the grocery store. If you've been to the grocery store and you've tried to navigate that 6 foot rule, it's obviously a very complex interaction. And there are times where you just like, I find myself, do I hold my breath? I have to get through here and I'm literally trapped. So you're breaking that rule from time to time. And I just wonder what a world would be like if you're getting an alert every single time someone has to make an exception for a specific situation. That's something that we definitely have a close eye on, and we'll invest in if we feel like we can add value there.
And then another question: my main entry and exit are through the same door. Can your product accurately calculate occupancy in this scenario?
Yeah. So again, I mean, that's our bread and butter. We're counting exits and entrances in real time across single doorways all the time. It's really what we're best at. So 100%.
It's actually maybe easier for you because you only need to set up one sensor. Although
yes,
I will warn
totally.
you, I saw that attendee mentioned their main entrance. I would watch out for those other entrances where people tend to come
those
in and out of.
stairwells, those emergency exits. People use them. Cool.
Awesome. Okay, I think we're out of questions, and I know we're way over time. So everyone who stayed with us, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Please reach out to Density in any of our formats or on our website if you have any questions. Oh, I see there's a few other questions that just popped up. So one question: to report on average dwell time, I presume you must have units at all points of entry to the building. Thermal imaging that will be employed at main entrances can also carry out a people counting function. Do you see yourselves working alongside effectively those thermal imaging options?
Yeah, totally. So, not all of our customers are going to be investing in thermal imaging. Some people do based on the type of work they do, but a lot of those systems are not necessarily people counters by nature. And we also know that unless you're going to implement some kind of very strict security settings or very strict security protocols, you're not going to be able to manage that. And that's why we exist. If your security is going to be so tight that one person is allowed out and in at the very same time. So again, the exits are also an important factor to take into account. Then you probably don't need something like us. But if you have some area of your building where people are able to leave freely or enter freely, that's where density comes in.
Yeah. And one other thing where I've seen even in highly controlled environments, customers still get a lot of value of density is that even if you're managing one in, one out, you're not calculating that over time. You're not documenting that in a analytics module that you can then chart, graph, put against other data sets. So this is actually a data set that most of our customers have never had before working with density, and they find it really valuable, especially when you have the ability to look at it longitudinally over time, and when you can compare it with other data sets that you might be using for your space, like overall head count, assigned to that office. Customers use us also for optimizing like HVAC and energy systems. There's just a lot of rich things you can do once you actually know how many people are in your building and when they're in your building. Another question for you. It sounds like maybe we need to wrap because we're at time.
I think we have to wrap. Yeah.
So thank you for your questions. If you have more questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to answer those on our website or if you go to contact@density.io, you'll hit all of us here.
Cool. Yep. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right. See you guys.